One with the temperament of Donald Trump isn't president.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Yes, Hillary Monopoly, where every space sends her to jail and there's very little art of the deal required. And every card in the deck is not a get out of jail free card. There was a new Q post today that I want to talk about in a moment where there seems to be a coded message saying Hillary's going to jail. Of course, that's speculation. But I think at this point, with the direction we're heading, we can forecast that as the crimes continue to come out and enter into the zeitgeist of the people, as the Overton window opens to the point of where we're going to start sending people to jail, as they have already done on the conservative or the Republican side, they have indicted people, prosecuted people who are going to be going to jail for petty crimes like not registering as a foreign agent, lying to the FBI. And I'm not saying these are necessarily good people who are going to jail, but it sets such a great precedent to say, well, they did this petty crime and you went on a witch hunt to send them to jail, and so fair is fair. Not only that, but they are exposing the incessant, unending corruption inside the Department of Justice and the FBI, and I think it's going to go far, far deeper than that, as you can imagine. I'd like to go right into the Q drop now and also talk a bit later about the indoctrination of children and the programming involved in that and the science behind the studies they use to indoctrinate us. How they do this every chance they get, and it's the only hold they have on us is the mind programming. That's why fake news is the enemy of the people, and then talk about several other stories that you might find interesting. I'm just going to get right into it today because it's Friday and there's a lot to cover. On that note, if you are new here, consider subscribing as I talk about this stuff all the time, the news, current events, and Hillary Monopoly jail memes on a regular basis, as well as how they relate to our everyday lives in the great expanse of the Great Awakening and the many changes to come. Here we have a post from QAnon today with these two statuses from Donald Trump. OIC, now that the 2-year Russian collusion case has fallen apart, there's no collusion except by crooked Hillary and the Democrats. They say, quote, gee, I have an idea. Let's look at Trump's finances and every deal he's ever done. And let's follow discredited Michael Cohen and the fraudulent and dishonest statements he made on Wednesday. No way, it's time to stop this corrupt and illegally brought witch hunt. Time to start looking at the other side where the real crimes were committed. Republicans have been abused long enough. Must end now. Now you may notice that he says there was no collusion except by crooked Hillary Clinton, as in goodbye. He highlights the by in there as in BYE, and also the time to start looking at the other side where real crimes were committed. Republicans have been abused long enough. Who else has been abused long enough potentially by other people? We have seen many human trafficking arrests, and that could be a coded message as well. Q says carpet bombs are okay. Tactical nukes are better. We've seen carpet bombs of the continuous explanation and campaign, the sale to the American people, that there is massive corruption inside the government, that the Democrat Party has become the political arm of the deep state. Yes, there was always a false left-right paradigm, but the Republican Party has cleaned house. So many Republican senators and House members have been forced to resign, and the Democrats have done nothing but continue to go farther and farther left. People like Lindsey Graham have come out of the Republican Party and been so-called version 2.0 of themselves, which is they've been freed to actually fight for less government intrusion and a clean-out of the FBI, as you may have seen him questioning in the Kavanaugh hearings about putting traitors to the United States to death. That's a change of pace from other Republicans we've seen. Q also says minus 21, minus 20, minus 19, minus 18. He's talked about a countdown recently, several countdowns, and this seems to be going towards March 19th because he did a post 3 days ago that was minus 21. That would mean today is minus 18. Tomorrow is minus 17, which the date of tomorrow also adds up to 17. It's also 111 days after 11/11, which 111 has been a delta. Significant things have happened there before. Of course, that's all speculation. Even this countdown, which it's clearly this is what he's saying. It's a countdown to March 19th, but it really doesn't mean that much because they use these tactics to let the enemy use up all their tricks. Maybe they'll remember last time they had D5 and then Bush 41 died conveniently. So who knows what else can happen besides then. I don't put any stock at all in these countdowns in terms of significant things happening other than that it's just moving on to additional phases. Speaking of phases, this is a graphic put together by the Anons. This is the Trump tweet we just saw. 819 is the timestamp. This is QPost 819. You can see all the QPosts if you search for them on qmap.org, and you can find them by the number. This is 819. It pictures this picture, which says Phase 2, and Trump warns world of a very unfortunate Phase 2 if North Korean sanctions fail. This is back from February a year ago, 2018. Q says, no coincidences, expand your thinking about Phase 2. So this is 819 Phase 2. February 14th, 2019, Phase 3. The next phase will bring justice. So if we're at Phase 2 then, we may be getting to Phase 3 now, and justice should be coming. In other news of what some might call peak 2019, we have from The Sun, Born Free. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry will raise their baby as gender fluid and will avoid any stereotypes according to friends. If they're really their friends, they might tell them this is outside of the realm of reality, and teaching your kids that there's no such thing as gender and there's no innate differences between the gender might put them in a situation where they're living in a mindset that is less close to reality. Of course, this is what they want from us. They want us to not have the great benefits of having two specialized genders. With specialization comes great economic benefit, comes great productivity. They also want us to live outside of reality and have a mental map of the world that is inaccurate. It's like a blind person walking around bumping into things. They love that because then we struggle and we go in the same loops over and over again. We can't question if men and women are inherently generally different, of course. I mean, biologically, they are essentially different. Then it keeps us confused. And if we stay confused, we can't see reality. We can't see reality. We can't see what they're doing to us to keep us from flourishing, because then they become irrelevant, and that's the last thing they want. Public awakening is their greatest fear. The article goes on to say, according to a study, the Journal of Experimental Child Psychology, children enrolled in Sweden's gender-neutral kindergarten system had access to more opportunities. More opportunities, good. Gender noticing, bad. According to, this is linked from the article, Sweden's gender-neutral preschools produce kids who are more likely to succeed. What they count on you doing is seeing the study and then repeating the headline to people saying, you know, they studied it and your kid's going to have more opportunities. Your child will only become a doctor if they don't acknowledge genders or gender stereotypes. Inside a handful of public kindergartens in Sweden, toys are never divided in traditional gender camps. Dolls and baby strollers mingle freely with cars and wooden blocks. So far, that's fine. I'm not offended if my son were to cross paths with a stroller. In posters, dump trucks haul around beaded jewelry, a bionic robot wears a tutu, and it's not a female or male Barbie who does the dishes. That's left to a skeleton. What we do in our schools, we don't put labels on the children. We don't say, Frida, she's so beautiful, cute, and helpful. And Muhammad is so wild and tough, Rajulin tells the audience. It goes on to say, such efforts are probably paying off, probably. And it's probably good. In a small study published in the Journal of Experimental Child Psychology, researchers at Uppsala University in Sweden report that children who attended one gender-neutral preschool were more likely to play with unfamiliar children of the opposite gender and less likely to be influenced by culturally enforced gender stereotypes compared to children enrolled at other preschools. So they have a sample size of one school here. I'm sure there could never be any lurking variables here. Tests showed that the kids from gender-neutral schools were as likely as other children to group people by gender, but didn't attach traditional associations of the concept of male or female children to the same degree. So they still notice that the boys and girls are different. They just don't have the words for it. They've changed the newspeak so you can't notice things. That's one of the ways they take away your ability to see the truth, is by not having words for the truth. And it also is saying that, yes, they play to the other genders more, which, fine, that's great. It's great for boys to have time with boys to have time with girls, and vice versa. But is this the only way to do that, is by teaching them that the concepts of gender are illusory? During a matching task, for instance, they were less likely to make choices in line with cultural norms when shown images of boys or girls and jeans or dresses. So you've put them in a bubble where they think that boys and girls don't dress differently generally, and then will be confused when they go into the real world and see that is the case. Together with the results, which I'm not saying you can't dress in dress if you're a boy, that is up to one's own opinion as they become sovereign beings, but it is the reality that most men don't wear dresses as much as most women. Together, the results suggest that although gender-neutral pedagogy on its own may not reduce children's tendency to use gender to categorize people, it reduces their tendency to gender stereotype and to gender segregate, which could widen the opportunities available to them. There we get to the punchline. It could widen the opportunities. So we've taken away these concepts that have been around for millennia to have children understand how there are biologically differences between various types of humans. And this will give them the opportunities they need. It could. Future studies would be required to establish whether a gender-neutral kindergarten education will lead to greater success. He further elaborates in an email to courts. But the evidence points that direction. So the study doesn't show that it's going to lead to greater success. But we think, that's what's going to happen. Of course, you may already know they look for the conclusion and then try and find the evidence. They look for whatever benefit they can find, and they look at their desired means of getting to that as the only possible way. There's no other way we could get boys and girls to understand each other better than denying the existence of the differences, which it even acknowledges they still notice. Of course, Vladimir Leninons already know, give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted. Yes, the children's minds are very supple, and they program them because they know that it really sinks in as a child, and it's very difficult to change that after the fact. This is why I often say that I think it is a terrible idea to hit children in order to teach them lessons of the world, because that is not how the world works, is by hitting. That is not how we negotiate. It teaches them a lesson that if they do something wrong, they have violence to be expected, and it also has been shown in many studies to lower IQ and lower self-esteem, which is not something I want. You also can teach a child to negotiate. People always tell me I'm going to be a bad parent because I'm not going to hit my child. I am having this be a case study. My child is about 2 months old, and it is already very obvious that there's no need to hit him because he is so new to the world that he doesn't understand what the hell is going on. And when he freaks out, he doesn't get what he wants. It's because his brain is not developed to understand that. When he's 2 years old, it will be the similar case. He will seem more like a developed brain who is an individual, but he won't quite be there yet to not freak out when something happens. It's a scary thing, at least it seems to me from observing one case, to come into the world and have no idea what in the hell is going on around you, who these people are that are caring for you. And I will teach him to understand that hitting is not good without actually hitting him. I'm not saying you're an evil person if you hit your children. I'm saying it is strictly worse strategy generally than not doing it, and teaching children to negotiate, a concept that they never would want you to know otherwise, because it leads to a system that isn't based in violence, because the government system is always based in violence. If you question that, just think what doesn't happen when you don't pay your taxes. You get letters, you don't answer the letters, they come to your house, and they might try and garnish your bank account, but if you really refuse, they're going to come with guys in government uniforms like they did at Waco, Texas, and enact violence on you or arrest you if you try and resist like they did in Waco, Texas. The anniversary of which was, I think, just a day or two ago. Then they will take you away and club you, and if you resist, then they'll do worse. Speaking of the deep state and the way they are violent, French prosecutors want Le Pen tried over a tweet. They want literal violence against Le Pen. That is their entire ideology. If you disagree with them, you deserve violence, imprisonment, and death. Prosecutors have called for a French far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, to be tried for tweeting pictures of atrocities committed by the Islamic State group. Judicial sources said Friday. Le Pen shared the gruesome images on December 2015, a few weeks after IS jihadists killed 130 people in attacks in Paris. Her move sparking widespread condemnation in France. They don't want you to look in the face what happens when you open your borders. That is hate thing to notice that, and she deserves to go to prison, apparently, for that. That's what they've got going on in Europe. I'm sorry if this is how you're governed here. It's okay for now. Dems look to steer clear of impeachment talk after Cohen testimony. Washington, leading congressional Dems were largely steering clear of impeachment chatter a day after President Donald Trump's former attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, alleged in public testimony that Trump had violated campaign finance laws and lied to the American public. I'm not going into that, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said at her weekly news conference Thursday, quickly dismissing the talk of impeachment. Yes, Anons already know it would be political suicide for the Dems to impeach right now because they would have no chance of getting a 2/3 vote in the Senate to actually impeach Trump, and they'd look like fools for trying to impeach with no evidence of any real crimes. Trump says North Korea can be a great economic power, but experts say it's uninvestable. Yes, I'm sensing a theme here where experts seem to know better than the people. That's what they want you to think, is always yield to the experts, listen to the authority, don't think yourself. And of course, sure, there's risks with North Korea now, but the world is changing. The world is going through a massive change, and who knows what it'll be in a few years. I just wanted to point this out because Trump, they say, oh, what a fool, who would invest in North Korea? And then we'll see what the case is in 4 years. I bet it'll be an entirely different world. Acting Pentagon chief to certify emergency to help build wall and win Trump's favor. Washington, it's an anxious loyalty test for acting Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan, whose future at the Pentagon is anything but certain. It'll free up $3.6 billion in the Pentagon budget for building new sections of the border wall and other projects. This article goes on to imply that he's doing it because he wants to score points with Trump. Of course, Trump brings in acting people after other people go to do things like this. A bit like the Scaramucci model. The wall will be built. The wall's already being built. Finish the wall, as they say. And in your daily sex trafficking arrest of the day, grand jury indicts 3 Arizona men in connection with a child sex case. 3 Arizona men have been indicted as part of an investigation into child sex crimes and human trafficking, officials said. The indictments are a result of an investigation that led to the arrest of 17 men on suspicion of child sex crimes in February. If nothing's happening, why are there record numbers of human trafficking arrests? And then for today's reasonable response segment, we have Ken D. says, read the conspiracy theory criminal thing. That was a study saying that conspiracy theorists are more likely to commit crimes. I believe in some conspiracy theories. I also break the speed limit, even if only a little bit, almost every day, despite having a spotless driving record. Conclusion, people who believe in conspiracy theories are race car drivers. Thank you for pointing out that bit of logical fallacy. In addition to not talking about the conspiracy theories that they asked about in that study, they also didn't even say what the crimes were except for one of them. And that would be another thing to see if it was things like, do you think it's okay to break the speed limit? Do you think it's okay to pay $1 less in taxes than you owe? Things like that. Or is it, do you think it's okay to rape and murder your neighbor? That is quite a difference from what they may be implying to what people may or may not be answering. They want you to listen to the experts. From the Metal Guy 852, God bless the man who beat that pedo to death. Much like our conversations here, I think that's a reasonable response. According to the law of Texas, it certainly was a reasonable response, although even if the law were different, some might be inclined to think that it was perfectly within the realm of reasonable force given the situation. From ICM, or is that lowercase LCM? The DS can smoke my meat in response to Zuckerberg's meat smoking. Yes, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but in terms of the spirit of what you're saying, I think I agree. Misoul says, Craig should be invited on Joe Rogan to talk about the Great Awakening to millions of people. I would love to, but you know who I'd like to talk to is Stefan Molyneux, because I have been loyal, well, semi-loyal listener and donator of his for many years. I stopped donating when he got off the Trump train. I do believe he said that he doesn't believe Q was real before, but he's a smart guy who I think when presented with enough evidence, which I think I could do, it would be a worthwhile discussion. I tweeted at him a while ago, and I didn't hear back, which I wasn't surprised about. That's fine. He's a busy guy. I'm sure gets a million tweets. But if you wouldn't mind pausing this and liking, retweeting, or commenting on it, on this tweet here, I'd greatly appreciate it. Maybe we can get his attention. Get on Molyneux. I was actually on Molyneux one time many years ago as a call-in, and I've tried to find the footage, and I can't find it. Also, Stephen Truffalo says, also, Craig has a beard or Craig has a big goatee. I thought this was crazy when you said it, but then I looked, and I see what you're saying, but it just comes in a little patchy, like Will Ferrell's George W. Bush said in his hypothetical beard off against Osama bin Laden. The Stoned Wanderer says, do you have a P.O. box for fan mail yet? Look at that wall real estate behind you. Yes, I've been saving that wall. I have some other things to put up on that wall. I do have a P.O. box, and I'll put the P.O. box in the description if you'd like to send me something. Feel free to send me anything reasonable. Probably not things that are edible, as I know other people have said they've gotten things that people tried to poison them. You know, it's not, I don't think most people would do that, but it's like the Skittles, the one poison Skittle. Would you still eat a Skittle if 1 in 1,000 were poisoned? Anyway, thank you for your question, Stoned Wanderer. And then there's this, which I keep coming back to. QAnon said recently, peace is the prize. Why do you like Donald Trump? Because peace is the prize. I just want peace. Remember when liberals were anti-war? Well, now I'm trying to unite with all of you liberals who protested against the Iraq War, protested against the Vietnam War. I thought we would be cool, because back then you were saying to the conservatives, the neocon conservatives traditionally, you murderers, how can you be in favor of this? Now we want to go over to your side. Trump's ending wars. And can we just agree that peace is the prize? All we want is peace. Can we agree that if Trump makes peace in Korea or helps make peace in Korea, that's a good thing? Can we agree the booming economy is a good thing? Peace and prosperity. That's all, man. Far out peace and far out prosperity. And lastly, live stream tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, and at 10:20 a.m. Pacific time, we'll be talking about finance and Bitcoin. Before that will be generally the news of the day, and then I will bring on my special guest for what may be her last appearance ever, because she's thinking about moving away. You can come let her know what you think about that at 10:40. She should be on approximately. She ate a fish sandwich last week. I think it will be a strictly coffee-only stream this week. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on that or anything else. And I'll be back soon. I love you all. Have a great day.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You just